Kuzuki Fateh. This is Chetandeep Singh from Bay Area, California. Today we'll talk about Munh. And the first slide I have here is it notes down the various forms, various variations of the word Munh that have come in Gurbani. I'm certainly not a grammar expert, Gurbani grammar expert, so I'm not going to dig into each of the meanings of what each variation means. But I just wanted to lay it out for you that these are the various variations of the word man has come in Gurbani. Today's agenda is pretty simple. We'll explore man from various perspectives. We'll talk about what is man, what does Western thought has to say about man, and how what Gurbani has to say what is man. And then we'll look at some of the fantasies or creations of Munh. We'll look at some mental models, examples, and we'll then end with a practical guide on how we can incorporate this in our daily lives. Just a quick question. You guys are seeing my slides moving? Just a quick check. Anyone?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So the fundamental question that I have here is, who am I? And the reason I have this question is when I was preparing for this presentation, I went through a lot of shabads like Mere Man Gur ki kar kamahe or Man Mere Satgur ke paane chal. And I started wondering, who is this Mere who is talking to Man or who is addressing Man? So who is this Mere or who am I? And I think this is the most fundamental question, which is the root of all the questions that we have in our lives. Who am I? Am I my man? Am I my body? Am I just something else? Or am I just I? So again, I'm not going to address answers to this question, who am I? But it's here to set up a context and a perspective on that there is something beyond the man. So in 1641, this French philosopher René Descartes, he made a very important distinction between mind and body. And he called body is a thing that exists, a material substance, and mind is a thinking thing, an immaterial substance. But the most important thing about him was like his idea of self was a thinking self. And his famous proposition, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. I've heard this phrase since I was a child, and this topic led me to think is, does really thinking precede the self, or can there exist a self without thinking? And Gurbani here differs from the Western philosophy, or at least from Descartes' proposition, that yes, there is a self that can exist without thought, and self does precede thinking, and not the other way around. So what is man? So from what I have read, the definition of man is very subjective. It depends on who you talk to. You can take it to be just, is it brain or is it heart? And what is the English translation of the word man? And in my opinion, the closest English translation of the word man is mind. But again, we have to be cautious because it's very subjective on who you talk to. But the way I understand man or mind, it's very broad and constitutes of many inner faculties, as we'll see in the subsequent slides. So again, what is man and what does Gurbani tell us about man? So Gurbani gives us enough hints to talk about what is man. From where does man originate, or what does it constitute of? And after going through a lot of shabads on man, I've tried to summarize my understanding here on this slide, and these couple of lines capture the essence of man the best. Is man ko roop na rekhya kai, hukme hoya hukam bujh mai. And my understanding or summary of what is man is based on Gurbani is man has no shape or form or size or dimension. Man is born through or with attachment, with moh dubida or dubida. And man's existence is really dependent on param, an illusion of independent existence. And in this illusion, man is, as Gurbani calls it, sleeping or unconscious or oblivious to the reality of one. And Gurbani also tells us that man's innate nature, subhav, is non-attachment or bairagi. Its real subhav or innate nature is prem as opposed to moh or dubida. And man is jot swarup, as Gurbani tells us, man to jot swarup hai apna mool pachan, and man has to realize itself. So with this definition of mind or man, as Gurbani tells us in context, let's look at man from a different perspective, and let's talk about some of the fantasies that our man has created. And here I've come up with this term, man-made is equal to man-made. So as human beings, the world around us, the reality around us as we see or know, most of it is figment of our imagination, the wonders of our man. And I tried to capture it in a table here. On the left column is the constructed reality we have that our man has created. And on the right column, I have a true reality as Gurbani tells us, like what is a true reality. So let's go through it. The constructed reality we have around clothes or fashion or grooming or branding. And what is true reality? True reality is that we have our body that we need to cover. And we have our realities around house or home or vacation homes or summer homes or beach homes and real estate and a strong attachment to our to homes. And Gurbani tells us, nature as our abode, balihari kudrat vasya, tera na jai lakhya. And then we have this constructed reality around cuisines, Michelin star restaurants, and all this debate about vegetarian versus non-vegetarian, this food, that food, and what really there is a food to eat as a fuel to the body. And then we have realities around religions, right? Sikhs, Hindu, Muslim, Jews, Christian, all these religions. And what Gurbani tells us is Sarab Taram mein Shreshth Taram, Har ko naam jab nirmal karam. And we have our realities around nations, nationalities. This is United States of America. This is India. This is Africa. This is Australia. And Gurbani tells us Begumpura Seher ko naam. And then we have created a separation. We have created a separation of this is mine, this is yours, and we closely guard against. We try to protect mine. These are my children. These are my things. And what Gurbani tells us is prani kya mera kya tera, jaise tarvar pankhi basera. And then we have constructed all the social norms, manners, or rituals, or classes. And Gurbani tells us, Karam taram pakhand jo dise, tin jam jagati lute. And then our man has created all these languages, English or Hindi, Punjabi, Russian, Italian, all these languages. But Gurbani tells us there is one language to rule them all, as so to speak. Sacha Sahib Sachnai, Pakhya Pao Apar. Then we have our identities, very deeply rooted identities. We are Sikhs, or we are Americans, we are Indians, we are Punjabis. And Gurbani tells us, Manas ki jaat sabai ke pehchan bo. And then pretty obvious realities around good, bad, what Gurbani tells us, Paap unte pai kahavat, and heaven and hell, Konar kosur banchavat. But the main point I wanted to drive home is like this man-made, this collective imagined reality, it's not necessarily bad in itself. However, it is deepening our illusion or param and taking us away from our innate true reality, innate nature, our mood. All right. So now let's look at some of the mental models or map that I've tried to construct based on Gurbani. How we can view Munh and inner faculties of Munh. So what we have at the center or the core is our self or I or the mool that we spoke about when I started. Who am I? In this self or mool, we have our tan, our outer body, our all the sensory organs, and then we have our man or mind. And this tan and man or mind have a very close relationship with each other. They have a close, tight feedback loop where mind affects the body and body affects the mind. And then we have something that I call as tirath, which is our kar, nij kar. And this kar has a dar, so dar keha, so kar keha. It has a mokh doar, and we have gur, so we call it gurdwara. And what gur tells us is Gurbani. What comes out of this kar or gur is Gurbani or Turki Bani. Now let's zoom in on man that we are talking about today. And what we'll find out, what Gurbani tells us, there is something called surt. And surt is basically our focus or attention or awareness or listening, wherever we put our surt on, right? Our awareness or attention. And then we have all these thoughts, feelings, emotions, preferences that arise in our man. And they again have a very tight close feedback loop with something called chit. And chit is nothing else but a writer or what I call a subconscious store of deep impressions. And chit is basically just a note taking mechanism. Like in computer science, we call it associative memory, very fast, that gives rise to these thoughts and also processes these thoughts and stores them back, kind of a subconscious mind. Also, I think this is referred to as Chitar Gupat. It's invisible, it's Gupt. And now, what does this Chitar Gupat do? It writes Lekha. And it writes Lekha and forms our Mat. And Mat is nothing else but our understanding of the world, our intellectual understanding or our mental models, how we see the world, how we understand this world. So, and this mat, in effect, gives rise to what Gurbani calls as Buddh. And Buddh is basically a direct experience, a knowing, a deep down, intuitive knowing that I know. So, the way this whole model works is that whatever we pay attention to, keep our surt attuned to, that through this process of thoughts, memories, chit, it forms our understanding of the world, mat, our mental models of how this world works, and it eventually gives rise to our buddhi or buddh, a deep knowing, our direct experience. Now, typically what we have here is what I call a sthul man. A sthul is sleeping or unconscious. A stool literally means huge size, vishal, humongous, right? So in this state, when our surt is focused on our body or outer world or outside, what we have here is a stool man, which is huge size, which is sleeping, and its akar is pretty big. And the way this model works is like surt takes its input from outer world, we look outwards, and it with the process of these thoughts, feelings, and chit writing lekha, we form durmat. And this durmat, in effect, gives rise to ahang buddh, a deep knowing or a manifestation of param that I exist, that falls knowing that deep down inside, falls knowing that I am, that I exist. But as we walk on the path of Gurbani and as we walk on the path of Pithe Kadiye, Surt, Mat, Man, Buddh, the akar or the size of our man, it reduces, it shrinks. And as our mat, our surt does gur seva, which is inside us, it does gur seva, and chit starts writing naam on the gurmat, it gives rise to vivek buddh. And as we keep doing this internal seva, and Gurbani calls it kadya man, our man is now kadya man, and as we keep doing this seva, the size of the man keeps shrinking, and effectively man just dies, and all it remains is Tirath. Ram Kabira ek pay hai, koi na sake pachan. So this is the model, the way I understand Gurbani. This model works. Now, to explain man, Gurbani has used many examples and metaphors. But before we jump into what Gurbani calls man or mind as various examples, let's look at some alternative literature. And these are some of the quotes attributed to Buddha. And he says, in days gone by, this mind of mine used to stray wherever selfish desire or lust or pleasure would lead it. Today, this mind does not stray and is under the harmony of control, even as wild elephant is controlled by the trainer. And this picture, it really gives me a perspective. Like if I view my man as a wild elephant, like this huge, big, wild elephant, it really gives me a space to think about. It puts a separation between myself and my man and gives me some ways to talk about my man. And then I was reading this book about book called Happiness Hypothesis by this professor of psychology, and he had these lines in his book, and according to him, his model was the rider on the wild elephant is conscious, controlled thought, and the elephant, in contrast, is everything else. The elephant includes the gut feeling, visceral reactions, emotions, and intuitions that comprise much of the automatic system. And he says that I, conscious controlled thought, was a rider on the back of an elephant. I'm holding the reins in my hand, and by pulling one way or the other, I can tell the elephant to turn or stop or to go. I can direct things, but only when the elephant doesn't have desires of his own. When the elephant really wants to do something, I'm no match for him. And I found these lines so close to heart. I resonated with these that I had to put this in here. And I remember there was a question raised on this forum, I think last year. Why do we knowingly make poor choices? We know what we are doing is a poor choice, but we do it anyway. And this answers me right here. My mind, my elephant has gone wild, has gone astray, and I simply cannot control him, at least not in that moment. The question I ask you is, have any of you ever felt so out of control with yourself that you really do not want to do or think or feel in a certain manner, but you simply have no control over your own thoughts, emotions, and we just end up staring in despair? So the bottom line is to tame or control the elephant. And every philosophy or religion has their own method, so to speak, to tame this mind elephant. Now, what does Gurbani tell us about this elephant, or how to tame this elephant? And Gurbani uses the word kunchar, which is an elephant. And Gurbani has lots of shabads, these beautiful shabads, where Gurbani tells us, man kunchar, kaya udhyana, gur ankas, sach shabad nisane. And then this one, Kabir kaya kajli ban paya, man kunchar mein mant, ankas gyan ratan hai, khevat birla sant. And man kunchar tilak guru, gyan kunda jeh khinche teh jaye, Nanak hasti kunde bahra fir ujad paye. So Gurbani's model is different from the previous two models that I spoke about, the Western thought. And Gurbani tells us that this gyan as kunda or ankas or a metal chain or a noose of gyan, knowledge, only this can tame this wild elephant. Only this gyan can control or give direction to the elephant. Now, a very important point here is that what knowledge or what gyan are we talking about here? So I want to make a distinction that Gurbani is not talking about hearsay knowledge, or hearsay knowledge cannot tame this elephant. Reading all sorts of books, or even merely reading Guru Granth Sahib Ji 10,000 times, though if it's certainly helpful, but just by itself will not transform our mind. Only our direct experience or intuitive knowledge that arises from within after we follow the process of Tithe Kadiye Surt Mat Man Bhut, the process that we saw in the earlier slide, when Surt does Gur Seva and Chit starts writing Nam, and the Mat is formed according to the Gur, the knowledge, the Gyan or Vivek Buddh that arises as a direct experience or knowing from inside, only that can tame this wild elephant. Now, all this is great, but what do I do in my daily life to progress along? So, what I've tried to come up here is a simple practical guide based on Gurbani, but can I really do something? Is this something that can be claimed or bought or achieved? But if I cannot do something, what can I do? Can you forcibly grow a plant? But I can definitely create conditions for the plant to grow. And Gurbani has a beautiful shabad on this. Gurbani tells us, Man hali kirsani karni, saram pani tan khet, naam beej, santok suhaga, rakh garibi ways. And Gurbani, in effect, tells us what to do. Gurbani tells us time and again to do man khoj. Khojit khojit nij kar paya, amol ratan sach dikhlaya. And it tells us, is man ko koi khojo pai, tan chute man kahan samai. So andar khoje tat lahe pai mukhtawar. So Gurbani tells us to do man khoj. But the question now becomes is, how do I do man khoj in my daily life? So I've come up with these few points here that certainly help me in my daily life to do man khoj. So first is that being antarmukhi or going inwards. Going antarmukhi or going inwards can include from anything being less materialistic or to what feelings or emotions arise inside me when I see someone or when I talk to someone. Just being concerned about my inner self. And this ties into the next point, which is surt, focusing my attention or awareness to my mind's workings. What am I thinking at this moment? Am I just on autopilot, thinking as a compulsive behavior, or am I present right now? And then Gurbani has this beautiful shabad, Pankhi birk sohavda, sach chuge gurpai. And in some of the following lines, it has Pankhi birk sohavde, ude chohdis jaye, jeta ude, dukh kane, nit daje, te billai. So basically, Gurbani is asking us to stop the bird, man pankhi, to stop the bird from flying. And then in Japji Sahib, Guru Nanak tells us, Kiv sachera hoye, kiv kude tutte pal, hukam rajai chalana nanak likhya naal, jo tud pave sai palikar. By just dropping the ball of responsibility and accepting the things as they are. It is what it is. And then in Sukhmani Sahib, Guru Arjan tells us, Tesa hark, tesa usog, tesa suran, tesi usmati. By dropping my preferences, whatever is. And last but not the least, doing ardas, karo benanti, suno mere mitta, sant tehel ki bela, and basically setting my intention, ardas, to my inner self, requesting my inner self to guide me to the such. Uh, the next two slides are, the last slide is a bonus slide that I just came up with day before yesterday, and I'm not going to explain this slide, but they do reflect a thought process. And this is a small animation, and as this animation plays, I want you to be aware of your own thoughts or what emotions or thoughts come to your mind, and see if you can personally relate to anything. And I'll be happy to listen to these at the end. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह.
Anji, thank you, Jagandev, for such a wonderful presentation. I think there's a lot there to absorb. I will go first to Paramjit Virji. Any question or observations?
You're asking me?
Hanji, Ranaveji.
Well, I have to digest a lot of. First, let me, Ketanji, congratulations for an excellent presentation, very thought-provoking, and also there's a lot of material for us to reflect on. Right at the outset, you posed a question, which is my favorite question, and I have, in fact, raised that question here many times, and I was shot down too. And that is, who am I? I have spent a lot of time thinking about that question, who am I? Now, when you are talking about elephant happiness hypothesis, for example, even in that you mentioned that I have to control the elephant in me. Then you are putting us back into the same paradox. So who is saying that I have to control elephant in me? Is it something, if elephant is your man, that who is telling the man that I have to control my man? And I'm not clear on that one. In the last slide, for example, I still have to digest, to be honest. I'm just reacting immediately what I was making notes of as you were talking. In the last slide, when you have the animation there, you got the mool fixed there and the man with all these influences coming and corrupting it. The question which comes to my mind, why mool is unaffected and why man is getting affected? So what is the separation? What cause provides that insulation to the mool? That mool doesn't get affected, although it is right adjacent to where the whole animation was taking place. What was the separation? What was the wall separating? Why the influence was not extending there? So these are some of the things I made quick observations, but as other people are going to pose some interesting questions, then maybe we could come back and follow. But again, I appreciate very thoughtful and exceptionally well presented presentation.
Hanji, thank you so much. So there are a couple of questions that you raised, and the first thing that you observed, who am I, and the slide where you pointed out the happiness hypothesis, and he's saying that I, who is a controlled conscious thought. So maybe I wanted to bring out the contrast, and that wasn't clear, but I found Gurbani to be different from what that guy had to say. And to reiterate, the author of that book, he made a distinction between that he considered I as a conscious controlled thought, as a rider on the back of the elephant, which is the Munh or the automatic system. But so that's what he says. But what Gurbani tells us, or the way I understand, is the I is basically my mool. I am nothing but my mool. And as we saw in this slide, that man is born or through or with attachment, or dubida or param. So this ties into your next question, the mool. Basically, my mool is unchanging, and for my man, for some reason that I do not know, has created itself or separated from the mool. And Gurbani is asking me, man tu jot swarup hai apna mool pachan. So my mool or I is unchanging, it's fixed. And that's what the last slide was supposed to like if I can realize, and that animation actually helps me to think about it, again gives me a space, it gives me a context that who am I really? I'm my mool, myself, and all these things that I see happening with me, around me, through me, they're all temporary, they're all in the domain of my man, and they are no way affecting my mool, which I am, really am. And the purpose of me being here, or my man, is to understand its own fallacy, or to understand its own param, and eventually die. That's how I understand. I hope I could.
No. That's very good. Let me just follow up on that, your thought, because it's a very interesting line of reasoning you are giving, and I enjoy, and in fact, get mentally stimulated with that type of discourse. The question I'm pondering, and I will come back to that, my thought on that, is why all the influences which are affecting our man do not extend to the mool. What is protecting mool from these influences, which are you're talking about lust, attachment, and all those things? What is there? And my understanding is, I will come back to that. I'll throw my 2 cents in, because this is what I discovered over the last 2 weeks as I was reading Lama. Lama basically is a breakaway from that. Man is being told to break away and unite with your mool. So I'm just throwing back just to get some clarification in my mind, not as to challenge you, but just to think with you, is what is there which is protecting mool not to be affected? Or can we look at man and mool in a different model, different way?
Virji, short answer is I don't know why mool is not getting affected, but the way I understand Gurbani is, this is what Gurbani is telling me, that mool, that jot, or that hari, that in me, it is unchanging, it is fixed, it is one, ikonkar satnam, right? So that's the way I understand, but I'm not sure like why all the things that are happening in the domain of man are not affecting mool. Probably because mool is not in param and man is in param, and that's all I can think of.
Can I throw something? Maybe if you allow me to.
Sure.
Okay, I made a presentation here, and on that I had opportunity to get feedback from very brilliant minds around the table here. When I was thinking, I came up with man, because I pondered on who am I, and on that line of thinking, I made a graphics there, in that you cut an onion with a lot of layers there. Okay, mool is right in the center of that. And outer layers are affected because they are exposed to all the environment. And if your onion, whatever it is, stays very long in that environment, even the mool will be corrupted. It can penetrate all the way, because our lifespan is only that much that the influences don't go that deep. So it stays only the outer layer, 1, 2, or 3 layers, which I called man, which is collection of thoughts, and mood is sitting right inside at the center, the core of that. And it can, my intuitive thinking says that if we live very long, if we are in that environment very long, even our true reality, true identity inside can become a victim of those influences. That's my thought, just a thought. Anyways, for you to reflect on. Not a question, not just a comment, observation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Veer ji. हाँ जी, रिपुदमन वीर जी. हाँ जी.
Very nice presentation. Enjoyed it thoroughly. I really liked the table that you created of man-made and man-made. Was very nice. I think so. My only exception on that table would be the body itself. So the body again. I consider it, so to speak, just a vehicle, and it's kind of like clothes only for our spiritual self. That's the only exception I would have to that table. Otherwise, that was like awesome. I have my question is related to the mental model that you created. I really love graphics. That's how my brain works. So I really appreciate you putting in the time and effort to create it. My question is, did you create it purely from your interpretation of Bani, or did you actually use other historical Indian sources to construct that model?
Basically, I constructed it from my understanding or interpretation of Gurbani.
Okay.
I don't consider any other sources.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. So could you explain me your definition of chit again? Because it was a rolling text, it moves off, and I didn't quite capture that. Could you tell me what chit is there?
So the way I understand chit is like the way I consider it as to be a subconscious store of deep impressions. Can you see my slides, the mental model slides? Right now?
Let me bring up my, hold on, I moved on to my
Exactly.
phone. So it's, okay, all right. I can kind of sort of see it. It's too small for me to look at right now. I was looking at my iPad before, now I'm on my phone. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So the way I understand is chit is like, I started understanding what chit is, and this Shabad in Suhirag, Jal mo kasmas kar mat kagad karsar. Let me actually pull up that Shabad very quickly here so that I read it correctly. So that actually started me to think or give a hint about what chit is. And it says, Jal mo kasmas kar mat kagad karsar. Pao kalam kar chit likhari. Gur puch likh vichar. Likh naam sala, likh ant na paravar. Baba e lekha likh jaan. So this gives me a hint or gave me a starting point to think, like, what is chit? So chit is basically a writer. It is writing a lekha. And Gurupach is asking us to write a lekha of naam. And then I was searching on internet, like what's the origin of the word chit, and it sounds pretty similar to a word chit, like Punjabi we say chit, right? Chit pass karin parchiyan, right? And it's basically a mechanism. So it's like, and the way I see it is, chit is what gives rise to these thoughts that we have been storing deep impressions over our lifetime, or I don't know, maybe many lifetimes. I'm not sure about that, but a very like all the subtle deep impressions. So, for example, I go to a certain place, and all the thoughts relating to that place, all the memories just come rushing to my mind, to my conscious mind, right? How does that happen? All the thoughts arise from. So everything is stored in my chit. And another way to think is, we all talk about Chitragupat. So this Gupat is invisible and Chitar is nothing but a picture or a snapshot that this Chitar Gupat keep taking of our thoughts and all the emotions and keep storing them and serves us whenever we just the thoughts come out of it. That's how I understand Chit.
Yeah. So that's good actually. I got my answer right in the beginning. I just that was exactly my interpretation also of Chit and for a long time, and I'm very heartened to see that you came to the same conclusion. We have been using Chit in another way in this forum, and I could not find that interpretation in Gurbani. Whenever I try to interpret Chit, it kind of to me it becomes uh, the kind of interpretation that you created. So I was I was pleasantly surprised to see that interpretation. Appreciate that. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation.
Anji, thank you, Vijay. Anji, Ketan ji.
Chetanjeet Singh ji, I just have to say I loved your map. I love that you did that. It was great. It's great. The whole presentation was wonderful, and I really understood Munh a lot better after seeing the way you mapped all these terms to each other. The one comment I want to make, because it's a subject that keeps coming up, which is, and I was thinking about this today too, about, Gurbani so often talks to the mind. So who's talking to the mind? What part of our being or our identity is talking to the mind? And I want to come back to this notion of Nam as identity and not just as the name of God, because, in the histories and the stories, people are always begging the Guru for the gift of the Nam. And in my experience and understanding of Gurbani, Nam is that missing link, like the Mull and the Jot, they're eternal. Like no matter what body or mind you get, what reincarnation you're in, you're always rooted back to the one, and you always have the same light. The same light is just moving through time and space and incarnating in different ways. And then the mind is this very fluctuating, inconsistent kind of ability to perceive outer reality or inner reality. Like it's just a question of where it's going. But Nam to me is the identity, so that in every life, you've got a unique expression of that Jot, and the mind needs to serve it. And the Nam is what that true self is. Sat Nam, my authentic identity, my genuine self, my genuine being. And yes, it's connected to the Mull and the Jot, but it's the thing that gets clouded when the mind is not working properly. We can't experience our true identity. And then as the mind gets clearer. Anyway, I just wanted to offer that thought because of what you and Panelist Singh ji were talking about earlier. And that's kind of that's the piece of the map that I think could be added is Nam as the identity that links the eternal Jot to the time and space you're in with the mind. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Ikamkarji. So I think that's probably my next assignment, to dig more deeper into Nam and what Gurbani tells us about Nam. I like your idea about Nam as identity and not just name. So, we all on a surface level know where Gurbani has used the word or the term Nam, as Naam ke tare sagle chand and eko naam hukam hai and all. So, but these are the references that I have not digged into and understood well. So probably my next assignment is to learn more about Naam and what it is. So thank you for pointing that out.
Hanji, thank you ji. Hanji, Gurjeet Veer ji.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। So I must congratulate Chetandeep for giving us this presentation. Oh, it's a good effort because I understand when you when you have to draw these things, how much effort, how much understanding is required. And I normally encourage people, the real understanding comes when you write or you draw things. Because sometimes we think we have understood the fact, but the fact is too far. When you start sitting writing something, then only you realize how much is your understanding. And then you have to go for more. And as they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it's a wonderful idea if you can put things in pictures. So in the first slide, Virji, you have shown man and manwa.
Right.
So there is also expression like man meh manua jemare. So it means, what will be your explanation if you think that manua and man are same things? There are expressions like, you said you read quite a number of panktis. This come very early in Shri Rag only. Ki man mein manua jemare taapir rave nar. So is man and manua two separate things? What's your interpretation of these things?
Virji, thank you for the wonderful question. I actually thought about this when I started with my research about what is man, what is manua. At times I felt there was a subtle difference between man and manua, especially due to the shabads like this. But in the end, I mean, I don't have any conclusion, but I kind of summarize them into like, it's the same thing. There seems to be a very subtle difference, and I cannot explain what that subtle difference is. I did this over a month ago, and I don't remember what what is that subtle difference is. But I definitely felt there was a difference. But I mean, just for our purposes, I just took them as one, or mentioned as Manu as man. But there seems to be a difference. If you can help me understand, that would be great.
Okay. Yeah, we will at some stage we can discuss on these two topics. Other question which I have is, at some stage you said man is a stool, is that right?
Hanji Virji, yes.
Okay, and then you also say that man tu jyot saroop hai. Whereas if you look at simple meanings like jyot is invisible, subtle or invisible thing is what, because we always have a shortage of words when we convert it into English. But a stool is something which is visible, gross, which you can, with this eye, you can basically see. So how will you utilize man as a stool, whereas man is also, you said, is Jyotsrup. So you have any idea on that? How you can say it's a stool, and at some time you say it's also Jyotsrup?
Hanji Virji, so I'm trying to find a Shabad if I can. I'm not sure if I'll find it, but Gurbani uses the word a stool for man, and I don't know if I can. I'm trying to find it. I don't think I have it handy.
But if you look at the Tikas, they have actually confused the meaning of a stool. Sometimes they do it right. They say visibility is a stool. But sometimes they say mota. Either they want to say mota means visible, then it is fine. Because anything which you're referring there is ultimately come to visibility.
Right. So basically when I was reading this stool, and when I referred to Mahan as huge or big in size or Vishal, and that actually resonated with me, because it does not necessarily mean to be something visible, if something can be huge or vishal. For example, I was thinking about this shabad, Jinna Chalan Janya Se Kyo Kare Vithar. So Vithar is Visthar, and that can be huge in size. And there is also Shabad by Kabir ji that, कि मन ने like मन ने छोटा होके, like through that Sankura Mokh Dwar, it has to travel to the Kar. And right now in this state, the man is a sthul man, which is, it has constructed a huge big reality for itself, apne mool to alag hoke. But in the Shabad, man to Jyot Swarup hai, Guru Sahib is actually telling or sambodhan karke mano ki you are actually Jyot Swarup, so realize yourself. And when man is not realized itself, it has acquired or become a sthul man. That's a different state or state of mind, where man is a sthul man, and man has to realize that it is Jyot Swarup and has to effectively die and travel back to the Kar or Tirath.
Okay, but Astul means his expansion, he's into the Maya, not coming backward toward him. Astul is something visible, which is, as they say, Jop Joso Binusaya, whatever we see with this eye, because the Jyot never upjo, it never binuses. Whatever is the Binsan thing, you see, that is a Sthul. And mind is attaching to a Sthul through its Surat, as you were explaining. It's only two surats, either you are in a forward or in a reverse surat. So when you are in a forward surat, which means you are attracted more towards yourself, and when you are attracted more towards visible things, which are only as your want, not your need, then I think I have another observation. You were saying that Chit is a unconscious mind. Is that also came through? I think even Ripudaman Singh asked this question.
Virji, before we jump onto Chit, I would like to read this Shabad by Guru Amar Das ji. It says, Nanak mukat dwara atnika nanha ho jaye, haume man asthul hai, kyun kar vichho de jaye. So that's where I got this term, ki haume which man asthul, it's big in size, or akar is big. And then it says Satgur.
But manasthul, na? The manasthul man is attaching to a non-living thing. A sthul nal connection ban raha hai. That's the whole reason of home. But if its connection is the other way with its jyot, then it loses that, it becomes nanna. The shlok is coming as an answer to when Kabir ji has written this, it comes twice. And here this is an answer by third Pasha, that Mukta Dwara Sankura Sahaje Avu Jao. So, all right, but yeah, will be running short on time. Chit, you said is an unconscious mind.
I use the word subconscious, not unconscious.
Okay, so what is man then? Is man conscious?
So, man, so conscious is something which is aware, right?
I mean, yeah, there are two ways to utilize the term, but when you aware about what? Man is aware about something, but man is unaware about something.
Right. So again, these seem to be different like stages or states of mind, right? So when man is either conscious or unconscious, and when man is unconscious or sleeping, apne mool to tutta hua hai, it's separated, right? That is unconscious. That's what I would consider as unconscious. But Chit is we can either, like subconscious mind, it's not that Chit is, I'm just trying to find a right word. I also called it as associative memory or a data store, where it, right? So it's like a writer. Gurbani called it likhari, something that stores all the thoughts, emotions, and also gives rise to these thoughts whenever required. So and also the one that writes likha, because it's a likhari. So English
But
translation.
lekha will be, sorry to interrupt. Lekha will always be the one shabad you use. Are you mentioning that one? The one, Damascus. That is that shabad you're using for chit.
Hanji, that tells us that chit likhari, right?
Chit is always likhari because chit knows the truth. Chit, you have to take it in the cheta, someone who remembers. That word chit also comes as a cheat. There's a chit ave us parbrahm. There will say chit means to memory. That his memory, his supreme has come into his memory. So that's why I think Ripudaman Singh was saying there are different meanings for chit. Chit also mostly come from memory. Chit also comes as the way we deal it. But most of the time, chit comes as a memory in Gurbani. But memory is only with a positive mind. Then we can from there, like we say, Satgur Jagata hai Dev. So in that sense, that the subconscious, which is normally said in the Western literature, is actually conscious in Gurbani. And whatever they say is conscious mind, as you explained, we call it unconscious. Is that right?
Hanji Vidya, are you asking me something?
Yeah, I say because you explained me that man is conscious.
So I understand what you are saying, and where you say that chit is cheta or memory. So I take this as a noun rather than a verb. That cheta is memory, right? Like called associative memory. And whereas Gurbani uses the word chitlai, right? So that means not only with my thoughts, but in my deep impressions, like my whole memory or my whole impressions changes. So
Yeah, with the true consciousness that if the mind Ram manre Ram kaho chitalai, the man has to say it, but he has to associate with the chit at the time. Is that right? Is that how you are predicting it?
No, so I'm not using the word chit as, so the way I understand, are you saying the chit is also referred to, apart from memory, it is also referred to as Jyot? I'm not sure. I'm a little confused with your question.
No, I say when you say the word chit is used in two different senses. It's used for memory, but at the same time, as we say Ram kaho chittalai, that you have to attach yourself to your positive consciousness when you say the word Ram. So it says in two words, it comes as a concentration. It also comes as a memory. So is that right or not? Chit word will come in two senses.
If I were to read this whole Shabad, Man Re Ram Kaho Chit Lai. So the way I would say is not only my thoughts, but also my chit has to be with like my whole memory or my whole impressions have to be with the Ram. Like
yeah, so you are saying that there is some consciousness in man and some in chit. Is that right? Is that how you're saying it? The whole consciousness?
I'm not sure what's the English translation for chit. Like, is it subconscious or conscious? But the way I see it is like chit gives us all these thoughts and
yeah, it means I think you answered it, because when you say whole memory, that there is some memory lying somewhere else other than the mind. Then what you say, no? The whole consciousness should, yeah.
Right.
Now, all right, thank you very much. So I've taken enough time. Sorry about that, and we'll continue next time.
Thank you, Vedji. Anji Baldevich, any observation or question?
Not much time, Anyway, I'll just try to summarize it, what are my thoughts processes are. कि जी पहली लाइन दे जी in the very first line okay, I'll take mood. To me, mood is the source. That's what I mean. Not self. I am not the mood, but mood is the divine, and I'm just basically a child of that divine. So that's, to me, mood is a call for. There is another thing we were talking about. Chit to me is focus, attention. ਇੱਕ ਮਨ ਇੱਕ ਚਿਤ ਇੱਕ ਛਿਨ ਤੇ ਆਇਓ, ਇੱਕ ਮਨ ਇੱਕ ਚਿਤ ਇੱਕ ਛਿਨ ਤੇ ਆਇਓ, ਕਾਲ ਫਾਸ ਕੇ ਬੀਚ ਨਾਲ। ਤੇ ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਫੋਕਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਥਾਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਹੈ ਉੱਥੇ ਹੈਗੀ ਲੱਗੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਦੂਜਾ ਮਨ ਕੋਈ ਐਸੀ ਕੋਈ ਸੋਲਿਡ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ, ਇਨ ਮਾਈ ਓਪੀਨੀਅਨ ਇਟ ਇਜ਼ ਸਿੰਪਲੀ a combination of thoughts are, it's kind of a curtain where thoughts hit, and that the curtains have probably senses which give order to the body, different parts of the body to act. And that is what my thought, about man is, So I think because of the time, maybe I should limit myself, with these thoughts, whatever little I've got. Thank you.
Anji, thank you, Virji, for your observations. Anji.
Virji, can I ask Baldevirji a question here?
Gio.
Anji.
Virji, you said ek man, ek chit. Difference between ek man and ek chit here? Is it just a...
Chit, ਹਾਂਜੀ ਚਿੱਤ ਹੈ ਫੋਕਸ। ਇੱਕ ਮਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਥਾਟ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਸਾਡੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਸ ਫੋਕਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਡਿਵਾਈਨ ਨੂੰ ਅਗਰ ਧਿਆਈਏ, ਇੱਕ ਮਨ ਇੱਕ ਚਿੱਤ ਇੱਕ ਛਿਨ ਧਿਆਈਏ, ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਾਪ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕੱਟਣ ਦੀ ਪੋਸਿਬਿਲਿਟੀ, that's what I take it from that. Clarify if I'm wrong, please correct me.
Okay. This, yeah, so if the phrase was ek man ek chin te aaye instead of ek man ek chit, would the meaning?
Anji, ek man ek chin, one thought, one focus.
Ek chit you said, right? Yeah. So if you were to drop the ek chit phrase from that shabad, will the meaning change?
I don't know.
Similarly, if you were to drop the ek man and just keep ek chit there, will the meaning change?
Man is combination, which to me is combination of, is a combination of thoughts. It is not something solid like brain or mind or brain or heart or some instrument to the body. It is something which is subtle curtain. It's not some kind of a special tool over there which we can manipulate or use it. Of course, to thoughts, if we start focusing on our thoughts, so once we start focusing on our thoughts, there's a good possibility that we can change those thoughts. But when we're talking about Gyan is basically, to me, Simran, constant Simran, bringing Simran of Akal Purkh. And that is how slowly our thoughts will start diminishing. And as the thoughts start diminishing, there is a time when mind more or less becomes dead. And that it's not going to happen overnight, but it takes long time through constant process of Simran.
I think that's what exactly Chetandeep showing on his diagram that is in front of us, that what is man and then what it takes for that curtain to go away. So are you just saying that what Chetandeep said, is you agree with it, or you have any more observation or something you think in this diagram that is not correct? Because you keep referring to man as thoughts and
one thing I must say, you have done such a wonderful, VG have done such a wonderful work in drawing everything. But I somehow cannot agree with for example, take the word chit, subconscious store of deep impressions. No, I don't agree with that.
Okay, so how will you define, just one more time, like how will you define chit in simple English term? Yeah, like if you have to explain someone what chit is, then
To me, it is a focus,
focus on.
conscientious focus on whatever you are going to do. That's, to me, it is a conscientious focus.
Okay, I think that's fair enough. Riputaman, you have any other follow-up question on that?
Not to Uncle Jay, thank you. I do have a question in general, but is everybody already done or somebody's remaining?
Let me see if Jasbir auntie have any question, then we can come back to you. And auntie, are you on?
Yes, so looking for, yes, let's wait for the question. Yes, I would like to hear. Yeah. Ripulamanji?
Auntie,
Yes, please.
Ranaviji, I'm just seeing that if Jasbir auntie have any question or observation.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ
Auntie ji, any observation or question you have for Chit?
no it's a wonderful presentation and the question answers all are really wonderful so thank you very much and congratulations Chetan.
Thank you, Auntie ji.
Thank you.
Riputaman, back to you, ji.
Thank you, Ji. Chetan Ji, could you go back to a couple of slides before where you had brain and heart? So I think so. This question is very dear to me because I at some level, answer the question: is it all physical, or it is not physical? So for a second, if you were to assume that it is all physical and our thinking capability comes through our brain, we don't have, by the way, any scientific proof that this pumping organ called heart has some other function other than to pump blood. And all proofs are that our brain is the brain with the spinal cord system, so to speak, nervous system is the one that is the thinking capability, right? But even in this physical model, if I say where is mind, where is man, it is not a physical entity per se, right? So the man, all the properties of man that you described on the next slide still apply, because even though it has a physical basis, you can't touch and feel it, right? So I just wanted your reaction on that. How do you react to that statement?
So I would like to read a Shabad from Kabir ji, and it's a long Shabad, but a couple of lines from that Shabad are: Sankadik Narad Mun Sekha, Tin Pi Tan Mein Man Nahi Pekha. इस मन को कोई खोजो पाई, तन छूटे मन कहाँ समाई. So I mean, and then it says if man ka koi janne pe ho, right? So that pretty much answers it for me. That he's clearly saying tin pi tan mein man nahi dekha. So I think that's your question.
So I will say that tin bhi tan mein man nahi dekha. That's exactly what I said. Even if I offer you the brain and I was to open up the brain for you, you will not be able to find the mind inside the brain, because it does not have a physical, visual reality to it, even touch feel reality to it, right? The thought that emerges, it's just it is a non basically it's outside of your senses, the intelligence that emerges in the brain, right? So Kabirji's statement would still be true if the man had a reality because of brain.
Okay. So your question is?
Yeah. So the question is, no, I just want to get your further reactions on it. There's no question here. I'm just getting a reaction from you.
Okay. I mean,
because you said, no, is tan ko khojo pai? Yeah, here is the brain, find the man in it. You can't find it, and yet we know that.
Right. So
Example, right?
short,
So, yeah.
so short answer is that
Okay.
I don't know, and that's what I'm trying to find out along with you. And
We are lost here.
Gurbani tells us, "Tin pitan mein man nahi dekha," and then but we still have our surt, which is our attention, and our both that knowing that I don't know. I've tried to feel it like the deep knowing that I exist, and and again that's not physical, but that's a feeling or a knowing. So I'm in
Yeah.
the same boat as you, Vijay.
Yeah. Because the further thing is that if there are so many people who have a brain injury, and their thinking capability actually goes away.
Yeah.
I have personally met people with various parts of brains damaged, and their reactions are predictably, their behavior is predictably different. So depending upon which brain portion of the brain the injury has happened. So it's it's a question I would like everybody to think, that is it physical?
Can I just pose a question here for clarification, please, or maybe? Chetanji, your presentation, as I said before, gives us an opportunity to reflect on a lot of things what you brought up, and it would be a good exercise to go back and look at your presentation. One thing, did you think about, because I used to have this concept, man indeed is a collection of thoughts. It is how does we operate is through our thoughts, and man, our thoughts are influenced by those five vikars we have been talking about in Gurbani. They influence man through the thoughts, and my feeling has been that man in fact is a collection of thoughts. Now that is the question, from where does a thought evolve? Okay, how does a thought form? Does it take place before man is formed? And one time I was thinking about that. I think our thoughts are related to consciousness. When the child is in the womb, the very first time the child feels, because we know that when the mother is reading or doing something, the feelings go inside, the thoughts are developing. And I was discussing with somebody, I said there is a point when the consciousness comes into human body, when the thoughts come in. So thoughts, consciousness, and man somehow are interrelated. And I'll throw it back to you, whether did you have a chance to reflect on that type of link, which might be out there?
Vijay, you're absolutely right that man is a collection of thoughts, and the fundamental thought that man has is that I exist. That it operates under the param that I am. I have an independent existence, or the illusion. So you're absolutely right. If the man is a collection of thoughts, and the whole game is of uh, and the whole game is that Gurbani is telling us, "Man re gur ki kar kamai." Ki, stop this pankhi, man pankhi paya. Stop it from flying, and listen or focus my surt inside towards Gur, and listen to the Gurbani and follow this Bani. So that's the whole game here.
Thank you very much. Yes. And are these slides are you putting up, or can you share the slides, please?
I'll share with Virji, Arvinder Virji, and then he can share with the broader audience.
Anji, I'm waiting for Gurjeet Vij to send me in the Unicode format, and then I will upload on the blog all the slides. And Ekamkarji, I know you're listening. Any feedback on the discussion we're having in the end?
The only feedback I have is I think that this is, back in January when I was my blessing to present about how man and I, was trying to map terms. I just think this is a great approach because what happens is, you know, I'm hearing everyone say, well, what does chit actually mean? Well, I'm not sure I agree with that. You know, and these are the conversations, because it's not about what chit means in English. It's about what chit means within the context of the system that the Guru's talking about. And I think that maybe we're splitting hairs too much, because chit comes with a lekha, you know, to write, and writing is about storing or memory. You know, whether we use the English terms conscious, subconscious, or unconscious, I think we can just go to the Gurbani and say chit is a recorder of some kind. You know, okay, well, and how does that impact everything? So I was just grateful to witness the conversation, and thank you.
Thank you, ji. Anji Baldev ji, any final thoughts? Anji Baldev ji, any final thoughts?
No, no, thanks, Ji.
Okay, thank you very much. So we will continue next week on the same topic, Munh. And Ekankar ji, you will be up for 24th, I believe, the following week. So I think we'll continue on the same questions or around the same concepts. Thanks everyone for joining today, and hopefully we will see you next week.
So who's presenting next week?
Next week is Praprit Singh from Delhi.
Okay.
Who is, sorry, who is?
Praprit Singh Shah.
Very good. Yes, yes, okay, good. Thank you very much.
So he will be doing 17th, then Ekankar ji on 24th, and then Ravinder Virji we conclude on 31st. And then we will see if we need to do more sessions on Munh, or we can move to some other next topic. And we should start thinking about the next topic too. What should be the relevant topic after Munh? Like what questions are coming nowadays, and then what way should we go after this? So we can discuss that next week. I know we are very late. Sorry for that. And then let's conclude today, and then we'll see you next week. Bye, Guji
Thank you.
Ka Khalsa.
Bye,
Waheguru
Guji
Ji
Bye,
Ki
Fateh.
Fateh.